Hello, boys and girls. Mostly boys, some girls though. Welcome to another episode of How to Increase and Improve Your Dota 2 MMR. Rather, this one's called How Not to Increase Your Dota 2 MMR. This one's called Evils of Account Buying and Boosting. The reason why I decided to go for this one is because account buying and boosting is becoming a bigger and bigger problem in the Dota 2 community. I think it has something to do with 7.0. Some people are not coping too well and they're resorting to account buying or boosting. Now, this one is straight from the heart because anybody who's had an account buyer or booster or whatever in their games, they know that it's a total shit show. So let's get into it. Let's jump into it. First of all, why do they do it? Why do some people do it? Biggest reason, obviously, is because they think they are much better than they actually are. They believe that their teammates are holding them back, but in reality, they're much better players than their MMR suggests, and they deserve to be playing with better people, and they deserve to be a higher, you know, MMR. Um, One of the reasons they validate this claim, one of the not reasons, one of the proofs they have to validate this claim is their KDA. They say, oh look, my KDA is so amazing. I've got such a great amazing every single game, like getting tons of kills, and I definitely deserve to be in a higher MMR. But that's not the case though. It's like 20% of the games. If you really look into it, it's 20% of the games they have amazing KDAs, but 60% of the games though they have normal average KDAs, and the remaining 20% they're completely shit KDAs, right? You're talking like 210 whatever. Nobody really cares about assists, although assists are really important. Maybe I should make a video on assists, to be honest. But the point being, they only remember the amazing KDAs. They completely forget the horrible KDAs, and the average KDAs are just whatever. Now, the Dunning-Kruger effect is another reason that leads people to buy accounts, or rather leads people to believe that their MMR is higher. And this is essentially everybody who plays Dota is at to a certain degree under the delusion that they are better than they actually are. So I mean, it's not that big a deal, but it is one of the reasons why people buy accounts, and it kind of ties in to the first point. Now, is it convenient? How convenient is it to buy accounts or boost accounts? Based on my research, based on my research of what I found from my research was that getting your account boosted. Now, unless you're Bill Gates, nephew or something, you would be retarded to get your account boosted, because it's just not worth it, honestly. Buying an account is all straightforward, so much cheaper. As you can see, and this is a very interesting graph as well. At 2.2k is the cheapest, and obviously it makes sense. The higher you go, it gets more expensive. But actually, the lower you go from 2.2, it gets slightly expensive, to the point where I actually found out that one MMR account are actually sold for more than 5k accounts. They're actually sold for somewhere around $50 to $60, and that was just what, you know. But that's the case. Some people like to pawn noobs, so they buy the zero MMR accounts, and they're really happy with that. Anyway, supply versus demand. Now, this 5k account is only 40 to $50, and that is really cheap if you really think about it. And that's why it is so common to have, especially in the 4k bracket. You got like $30, spend $30, and that's it, you buy a 4k account. So it's really convenient, and that's why that's like, you have a desire to be a higher MMR. It's really hard to climb MMR. You feel like, I deserve a higher MMR. You go to a bloody website, you go to Google and type in, buy an account, and you got tons of 4k accounts at extremely cheap prices. So people do it. People go for it. Now, what are they gonna experience? Now I'm gonna save them. Well, I'm gonna save them a lot of money. I don't want to say you because my YouTube viewers and my students obviously don't buy accounts and would never get their accounts boosted because they're smarter than that. So the people who do, or the people who might be considering your friends or relatives or whatever, I'm going to save them some money. This is exactly what they will experience. First of all, the biggest thing is they will experience being completely out of place. Now, I've felt out of place in games. I've been the games where I've been the lowest MMR in the team with a 6.5k average or higher average game where I'm the lowest MMR. Everybody is playing at a really high 1k 1.5k level higher than me, and I have no idea what to do. I have no idea what the hell is going on. I have no idea. The pace of the game is completely different to what I'm used to. I feel out of place. That's the bottom line. And this is exactly what the person who buys an account or gets their account boosted feels. They feel out of place. And because they feel out of place and because they are not used to the skill of the game or what other people are doing, they will think that other people are idiots. And this is like a natural, this is all around the world. When you don't understand what somebody else is doing, you laugh at them, you think they're idiots, they call them stupid. And this is exactly what you experience in a game where you are out of place, where you don't understand what other people are doing. You disagree with your teammates' decisions because obviously they are playing at a higher level, but that level you don't understand. When you don't understand, you think they're wrong, and when you think they're wrong, you don't agree with them and you call them idiots. Blah blah blah. When you play carry, you don't understand what the supports are doing, and you rage at the supports and you blame the supports. When you're playing support, your carry is constantly pinging you, and you're like, "Why are you pinging me, dude? I'm just trying to get my farm here. Why are you bloody pinging me?" So they'll constantly be angry at you, even more than your own bracket people were angry at you. So it's gonna be really bad experience essentially, and the effect, obviously, and believe me when I say this is almost always the case. They will get back down. Not you, as I said, you don't buy accounts, but the people who do, they will always fall back to their original MMR. Now, there might be a case where they might be a little bit higher than the original MMR. For example, if they're 2k, they might land at 2.2k. But that might just be because they practice a little bit more. They've learned a bit from playing with higher level people, and they've gotten 10% or just a little bit better. So regardless, they will always lose straight down. And some of the games that they will win in the higher brackets, which it'll be positive reinforcement for the mistakes, but they'll be carried. That's why they will have won the game. Otherwise, there's no way they're gonna win the game with this is, I'm talking about 1k higher. When you get boosted or buy an account which is 1k or more higher than your original MMR. But note this, they mostly always, I want to say always, okay, always they will come down to their original MMR. Now there will be exceptions, and I will talk about that. I think it's the next slide. Okay, it's not the next slide, but there will be exceptions, and we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. But why do they always fall back to their original MMR? The reason, it's not always because they're not good enough, but sometimes it'll be because every MMR brackets, the meta is different, the pace of the game is different, the sort of heroes that are played are different, the kind of team fights and all of those things, they're slightly different. The meta is different, and you kind of have to, when you're climbing, you climb a few hundred MMR, and you find out that there's a new meta, and you learn that meta, and you get adjusted to it, and then you improve on it, and then you surpass it, and that's how climbing basically works. Now, when you try to leapfrog this, and you jump into a different MMR much higher than yours, where you're unable to adjust to the meta, you will lose. Now, this happens when a 5k player, let's say, tries to play in a 3k game. That same thing happens, but it'll take him maybe 1 or 2 games max to adjust to the meta because it's a lower skill level. You know, he's already been through it. He understands it. Whereas a higher skill level, you have to learn a lot, new things. So it's an advanced technique. So it's not. It's you can't learn it. But that's sometimes. Most of the time, though, they're not good enough. Honestly, that's straight up. I don't even know why I bothered to make this slide. Straight up, they're not good enough. Now, the exceptions, I don't know why I didn't put this one slide before, but the exceptions to this rule. There will be a case, there are cases, rarely, I've never heard of any, but this is all hypothetical because every single case I've heard of, every single person I know or have heard of who's bought an account or has gotten boosted has always fallen back down to their original MMR, completely wasting their money. But there might be cases where people get their account boosted or buy an account and they manage to maintain their MMR. And this might be a couple of cases. Number one, their toxic MMR might be so horribly low that it's actually nearly impossible for them to get out of their the MMR they're at. And when they buy an account, they manage to get a brand new account with decent, good, or perfect toxic MMR, and they're matched up with other good people, and they're having a good 50% win rate at a much higher MMR. I've had several students actually, but one in particular who's been the biggest case. He was exactly 2.3k. He was 2.3k, and he was stuck at that MMR. I coached him, and I saw clearly that he's actually a good player, but he had some attitude issues. So I suggested to him make a new account. Sorry, I did not say buy. I suggested to him make a new account and recalibrate. He recalibrated at 3.7k. That's nearly 1.5. That is exactly 1.5k MMR difference. Now, that is amazing, right? He recalibrated. He didn't buy an account. He didn't boost an account. He recalibrated and he landed 1.5k higher. And the reason for that is, and then he tried to win games back in his 2.3k account, 2.2k, 3k account. He couldn't. And this is as I said, this is the reason. So, for this case, you are obviously much better off recalibrating your own account rather than spending money to get somebody to boost your account or buying an account. But I would suggest if you're going to spend 120 hours to to recalibrate your account, just spend 50 games or 50 hours trying to be nice and play support, give people wards, make them happy, ask for commands and all that shit, get your toxic MMR up, and it'll be essentially the same effect. But whatever works for you. Make a new account, doesn't matter. So the issue, why do I have a problem? Why do people have a problem with others buying accounts? This is kind of obvious. It's because of the impact the account buying and boosting has on others, right? It's the impact that it has on literally everybody else that they, touch. So what are the issues? Now, account buying. Now that is obviously bad, but it's not as bad as account boosting. So account buying, maybe actually I should go with whatever. When somebody who is like 6k or 7k, probably 7ks don't have that much time, but when a 6k player makes a new account, he's gonna ruin the first 2 to 3 games until Valve realizes, or Valve's algorithm realizes that this guy's obviously higher level, and it automatically puts him into much higher level games. So he will have ended up ruining 2 to 3 games, which isn't that bad. It's whatever. So that's not too bad. But the problems will come in when whoever bought the account, especially if he's buying the account 1k or more higher than his original MMR, and when he gets his hands on that account, he's going to be destroying, loads and loads of games until he comes back to his original MMR. And usually because of the price difference between account buying and account boosting, because account boosting is so much more expensive, usually from what I've heard, people end up buying accounts 1.5, 2k or even more. Well, I've heard a case of 3k higher once. So that must have been just horrible for if he continued on that account, from 2K to 5K, I mean, from 5K to all the way back to 2K. That must have been really, really horrible for every single person he played that game with. He played a game with. So, really bad situation. I don't know how people can be okay with account boosting though, but account buying, I guess I put this in the wrong slide, security. But yeah, security is not so much an issue in account buying, as long as the person who you buy the account from, they make sure to get the email address associated with the account so that they can quickly change the email address and all that. But I don't want to really get into it and help the people buying the accounts. Yeah, they should be hacked. Anyway, account boosting. All right, this is the real one. This is the real deal, the real problem. With account boosting, let's say you're a 2K MMR player, you want your account to get boosted, right? You give your account to a 6K player to boost by 1,000 MMR. That's assuming the guy loses 5 games. That's 50 odd games. 50 games. Well, I guess losing games don't count. So I guess it's really 40 games. So 40 games guaranteed, 100%. That guy has completely destroyed, ruined for 5 people in the enemy team. Completely destroyed. And that's just horrible feeling, right? And that is really the biggest reason for making this video. That's the biggest reason people have this issue. First, the account booster destroys the lower MMR games by boosting the account by 1,000 or whatever, 40 games. And then when the original person gets his hands back on their account, he or she is gonna destroy 40 odd games coming back down to 2K. Or even worse, if you've gotten a higher boost of like 2K MMR or even more, and then you're really destroying like 100 odd games, and that is obviously you're not gonna come straight down, so you're gonna destroy probably a lot more, like especially if you got boosted like 1,000 MMR. If you're a 2K player playing in the 3K games, there'll be like some games you'll win, and then you'll lose games, and then you'll win games, and the games you'll win are because you got carried. So it's not really 40 games that you're destroying, it's more along the lines of like 60 odd games that you're completely destroying. And literally every game you're destroying because somebody has to work triple as hard and get like super stressed and lose his hair and whatnot. So whatever. And the biggest issue I have is that this Valve does not implement any. Valve doesn't care. Valve does not seem to care at all that there are account boosters and account buyers and shit like that happening in their games, and it's such a big problem. I guess with their recent implementation of low priority and all that, they kind of want the community to suffer. So maybe Gaben has actually put these account boosters in the system to mess your games up. Think about that for a second. How to fix it? So how to fix it? It's always a question. It's always a question. It's not easy, obviously, but if you are considering buying an account or getting it boosted, first thing you should do is go to your Dota, open it up, look at that MMR, accept it, embrace it. That is your MMR. Accept that you are bad, but you're not actually bad though, because if you think that MMR is bad and you're above 2K, then there is half of the 50% of the Dota community is actually below you. So you're not really that bad. And the only reason you think you're bad is because you've got a higher standard for yourself. And if you've got a higher standard for yourself, then you should not be sinking to buying an account or getting it boosted. Let's just say buying it, please. I'm tired of saying it twice. So have a higher standard. Don't get it boosted. Embrace your MMR, and then get better. Practice. Go watch YouTube. Go watch subscribe to me and watch my every single video. Don't actually watch every single video. of mine. They're mostly just coaching sessions. But watch YouTube videos. Plenty of material out there. Stop blaming people. That never helps. If you blame people, then you will not learn, because when you blame people, you're saying that I didn't make the mistake, he did. Once you start doing that, then it's the Dunning-Kruger effect all over again, because you will be under the illusion that you're better, but you're not. If you're in an MMR, whatever MMR you're at, you're most likely there because you're as bad or as good as everybody else. So stop blaming, stop focusing on other people's mistakes. You look at your own mistakes and improve on those. And lastly, bring this issue to light, like I am doing. I'm trying to reach out to as many people as I possibly can by making this video and making people aware of this tremendous issue that is polluting the Dota community in all of our games, right? So do whatever you can. Go to dev forums, go to Reddit, go to Join Dota. Nobody reads their forums, but if you have time, go wherever you can. And if you have a relative working in Valve or knows Gaben or knows, any high level player or something, go and speak to them and make them aware of this issue. Make it a big deal. Make them aware of this issue and get Valve to fix it. Try to get Valve to fix it. All right. Performance-based MMR. So this is something that I've been advocating for a very long time, and I don't want to say I came up with this. I'm sure other people have thought about this because this is quite straightforward, but I don't believe that MMR, or the MMR as we know it, should be the way it is. I think it should be performance-based. I think that in a game where even if you lose, you should be able to get positive MMR, because God knows, we all know, there have been games where one person, or let's say a support, played incredibly throughout the game, not just early levels, throughout the game, but the carry was just an account buyer. So maybe somebody played really well, but he gets slapped with that -25, and somebody who played horribly and won the game gets awarded the +25. That's just not fair. That is absolutely bad. And I understand it theoretically, you would think it promotes team play because everybody's in the same boat, but it doesn't actually promote team play. We all know that from experience. So it really doesn't work. Performance-based MMR, and literally anybody who objects to this, like, hey man, how are they gonna judge? How are they gonna figure out who did what? Anybody who says that is a complete idiot. Go to Dota Buff, go to Open Dota. There is shit ton of data. There's shit ton of data for every single game on every single action that can be quantified and given not MMR but value to. For example, now these are special ones. These are not these are special cases that I thought of. Like, so for a support, placing a ward that does not get dewarded gets, and these are random numbers because I didn't want people to be that's not fair, whatever. These are just random numbers. But placing a ward that doesn't get dewarded gets positive points. Now, first of all, you're getting points for buying wards and placing wards, or just buying wards, and then you're getting awarded even more for placing ward that doesn't get dewarded. And if your ward does get dewarded, you are getting negative points. And if you deward, you would get points. And those normal things, right? If you're playing carry, you get really high points for getting really, really good CS. And if you are getting a lot of deaths, then you get, as a carry, then you get really high negative points. TP reaction to allies gets you points. All of these things, like these AFK jungle farm for 5 minutes plus, it gets you a negative points. These are special cases, though. You can have tons and tons and tons of points based on your performance, which I don't really want to get into too much because that's not what this video is about. But this is just something for if you guys are gonna make posts about this and make it known. This is something maybe you could push so that we can have a more sensible MMR system. All right. Lastly, if you are gonna throw your money at getting your MMR higher, might as well get a coach. Honestly, at the very least, you will actually be improving your skill level, and you won't just be buying disappointment and frustration. And to be honest, I'm really not saying that to promote myself or anything like that. If you there are cheaper coaches. There are much cheaper coaches than me if you are concerned about money, and there are much more expensive coaches than me if you are wanting to throw your money away. And to be honest, there's plenty of free coaches out there, much higher MMR. I know for a fact that if you go to Reddit, there are plenty of 6Ks and whatnot. People offering free coaching services. So literally, don't buy accounts. If you are gonna buy something, get a coaching session. Now, yeah. All right. Lastly, final point. I have a message. Well, I don't have a message. Mr. Michael Jordan has a message directly for account buyers and boosters.
I'm Michael Jordan. Stop it. Get some help.
That's it. That's all, folks. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you learned a few things, and I really hope that you make this issue, take this issue seriously. It's not just one game or some games, it's a lot of games, and this should not be a thing. Honestly, Valve should do something about it, and the only way they're going to do something about it is if the community, us, me, you, we make it a big deal.